So I started getting into this when I became one of the council historians back in the early 2000s. And so we were looking for a name. What do we call these things? We call them dips. It's a district identification patches. And we said, no, that's let's not go with dips. Let's just go DPs. And we said, okay, what are we going to classify a DP as? We said a patch that it only identifies the district without a reference to an event. So basically, patches with Camporee, Weebo's Woods, Scoutorama are not district patches. They're issued by the district, but they're not district patches. They don't solely have the name and the council on them. They have other stuff on them. So that's how we restrict these collections to. Uh, District patch has been used out throughout the Western region, probably elsewhere too, but these are ones that came to the top of the head as I was doing my presentation. Get my presentation ready here. San Diego County, Riverside County, California Inland Empire, Theodore Roosevelt out of Arizona, Blue Mountain out of Washington, Oregon Trail out of Eugene, Oregon, Chief Seattle out of Seattle, Mount Baker, which is north of Seattle, Olympic, which is now part of Seattle. And then my friend Todd and Frank sent me an additional list. We have Catalina, we have Crescent Bay, we have Denver, Evergreen area, Far East, Golden Empire, Grand Canyon, Great Western, Greater Yosemite, Inland Northwest, Lake Bonneville, Los Angeles, Marin, Montana, uh, Mount Diablo, Nevada, North Central Washington, North Orange County. I mean, Orange Empire. I mean, Old Baldy, um, Orange County itself, Ora, Pacific Harbor, uh, San Francisco Bay Area, San Gabriel, Stanford, Trapper Trails. You get my point. They're all over. That councils have issued district patches. So I decided that okay, this isn't just a Oregon thing that is pretty much was a Western region thing. So here's one from Mount Baker that I was identified. And unless you know what you're looking for and you have to ask around, you may not have a clue what the heck this patch was for. We have Chief Seattle. And Southeast District had Phelps and up to Browns, but it just had SE on it, and you had no clue what it was. Or one time they have nothing on there. And then you got to a little bit more detail with Green River District with Chief Seattle. It gave you the towns and all that stuff that were associated with it. Oregon Trail Council, just to the south of us, they this is just a smattering of what they had going on down there. Chinook seems to be a really popular district name in my research. These are Olympic area. Don't ask. It's hard to pronounce them because they're all in Northwest Indian jargon. One is I guess Clallam district, and the other one's Oat-U-Claw district. They're around Olympic area. And then Blue Mountain. You'll see these are you see around, but they fit it under their council strip. You got Richland, you got Umatilla. Umatilla was out of Pendleton, Richland out of the Tri-Cities, Oregon area. Theodore Roosevelt. And as I was researching, I found there were 6 different district patches. So when you go through it, you go, wow. Riverside County and California Inland Empire. The reason why I know this one is Riverside County is because I grew up in 29 Palms and we did a lot of activities in Palm Springs. And right before the merger, this patch was out. They had their community strip above it. And it was Palm Springs District in Riverside County Council. I got into an argument with it, but I got eventually backed. Uh, Todd eventually relented, and he says, "Yeah, I guess you're right. If you were a Cub Scout back then and seen these on shirts down there." and then the Palm Springs with the District 8, uh, designating it was California Inland Empire Council. So San Diego, this has a clue to somebody who is in this group. I when I was a member down there, I wore this patch and this coastal mountain when I was in the Marine Corps. And but I figured there was a lot of district patches out of San Diego. And so I was surprised with that many there in San Diego. Okay, on to our main focus. Since the early 1930s, there have been district patches in the greater Portland area for districts that make up councils. This, and in our council, they have changed names and boundaries, but almost a new patch was guaranteed every time a new district was created. And the councils changed names, gained territory, but still kept up with the district patches. So they were many different shapes and designs, and then towards the end of the run of the district patches, they all went down to the standard 2.5 inch round shape that they used on the pockets, and they put segments around them. And mainly the Cub Scouts got into the segments. The Boy Scouts never really got into sewing the segments onto it. And so my troop didn't bother buying segments for the kids because they would rather have a camp patch or something else there. Um, so in the Portland area, they were on worn on the sleeve where the American flag is now. And then when the American flag was adopted for uniform use, that patch was placed below the American flag. And then in some cases, one district used a pocket flap, and I'll get into that story a little bit later. But mainly they went into the after about 1985 or so, they started moving into the temporary patch location. And it goes along with it. You go on eBay, you see airplanes, people trade. A lot of them have been misidentified as council patches or camp patches. Most famous one being Lewis and Clark, district in our area has been misidentified as a council patch a lot of times. So in the early years, we had felts, and we had Cascade District, Sunrise. There's Cover Wagon. There's many other ones, but these usually go for a pretty penny in area. That are, you know, the cheapest one I've seen go for is about $25, and they're getting rarer by the day. Um, it took me a while. I just picked up the Cascade one, and I was looking for that. It took me about 5 years to pick that one up. And the Sunrise District, I was looking, took I picked up about a year ago, and it was still a long, hard search for that one. So the district felts in our area are highly collectible and sought after. And we have some early cut edge cloth badges associated with Portland Area Council. Uh, Pioneer was basically southwest of Portland in an area, the Lake Oswego, uh, Tualatin to Tigard area. Sunrise was basically on the east side of Portland. It's Celilo Falls, which doesn't exist anymore due to the damming of the Columbia River. Celilo Falls was out there near the Dalles, Oregon. It also included Hood River and all that stuff. So it's out there where if you start seeing the falls, it's pretty much you have the falls at going on up, and this Celilo was covered up by the falls there at the Dalles. So it was this particular hatch is highly sought after as well because of it being having the Celilo Falls on it. And then we had some early Portland AC ones, Thunderbird and Mount Hood District. Mount Hood District uh, went from has a long history, had about 40-year history. So they actually had the Thunderbird and Mount Hood actually had felts, and they went through to Columbia Pacific. So they went. Those two districts lasted a long time. In fact, Thunderbird carried over into uh, Cascade Pacific Council. So it was that old. Now we go into Columbia Pacific era, and we've had over the years we've had districts. Barlow Trail was the district that encompassed the tail end of the Oregon Trail coming off of Mount Hood. The Barlow Trail was one of the uh, trails off the Oregon Trail that went into Oregon City and stuff. Big Thunder was a northwest Portland area out there near the town of St. Helens, not Mount St. Helens, but the town of St. Helens off of the Columbia River. Then Fort Clatsop was basically where Lewis and Clark ended their journey when they did the thing. And Fort Clatsop is out in Astoria, Warrington area. There's a couple of one closed out Army base, Fort Stevens, and current National Guard base of Camp Riley. There are within those district boundaries there, but you see an old cloth rendition of Fort Clatsop right there on the patch. In 1993, Cascade Pacific pretty much absorbed. I mean, Columbia Pacific pretty much absorbed Cascade Area Council, and Cascade Area Council had their own district patches as well. There's three of them right here. Mount Jefferson district, which was on the east side of Mount Hood. I mean, not Mount Hood, but Salem, Oregon, and went on up to the Sandy M Pass on US 20, and encompassed all those little towns along the way along US 20 and US 22, going up and over the hill. Our Camp Pioneer is located in that district. Polk District was pretty much the farmland west of Salem. It's basically fertile farmland and stuff like that. So the major population out there is cows. And then Willamette is the capital, Salem, the capital, and it denotes the Golden Pioneer on top of the state capitol there. And it's so all these districts have a long history in there. And then Mount Jefferson and Willamette continued on into Cascade, and Polk got merged into what Yamhill district and became Eagle Valley district. So they merged Polk and Yamhill together upon the merger, those two districts. And here's the Yamhill district. It's called Yamhill here because they used their Chinook jargon here. But Y East is the Chinook jargon name for Mount Hood. And that's kind of interesting because there's some legends considering Mount Hood, Mount Adams, and Mount St. Helens all have there's an Indian legend, which is kind of interesting story. There's Thunderbird again as it continues on into Cascade Pacific. And Yamhills. Yamhills, I have an interesting story on later in the presentation. Now, here's some various names that were used over the years in the Portland area. Barlow Trail, Big Thunder, Calpuya, which was a district originally in Cascade Area Council, and it continued on into Cascade Pacific. Celilo, Chinook. Chinook was out there in just before you hit the border with Pacific Harbors Council. Columbia, obviously along the Columbia River. Columbia Gorge, same. Clackamas, their district patches said Nicomas. So a lot of people confuse that with a chapter patch, but it's actually the Nicomas patch is actually a district patch. Columbia River, Cover Wagon, Eagle Valley, which I mentioned, Fort Clatsop, is you can all read here, but we had a lot of names, named for various areas. And as far as I know, I think I hit them all. I had a couple fellow historians of the council review this list. They think that I hit everything, all the names that were used, but I thought that I for sure missed one or two. So I'm going to go into district patch or a camp patch. This one you'll see on eBay, commonly referred to as a camp patch. The trouble was Camp Pioneer was never in Portland Area Council or Columbia Pacific. It was a Cascade Area Council camp up until 1993. And so all these patches are related to the district and not to the camp. I tried telling sellers that are on eBay, they think I'm for horse manure. And I go, I'm the council historian. I know what I'm talking about. And it doesn't take long to check on that one to verify the story on those patches there. Keeping on with Pioneer, in 1981, Pioneer hosted a camporee for the district. A patch was put out reference to the camporee, but it just actually referenced the district. But an OA logo was put on it, and in the lodge they consider that a chapter patch and not a district patch. And pretty much the council historical group, we consider it a chapter patch as well. We don't, even though it does say district on it, it was issued by the OA chapter for the camporee and was intended as such for for all the campers, and they kept the rest for their chapter to use later on. So that one is considered a chapter patch. Some of our historians call it EA 1981, and I just call it, and some refer to it as A1 from Pioneer Chapter. There's still a debate on that one, with it, even within our circles, but we all agree it's an OA patch. Here's another one that gets some confusion on eBay and around the United States. Skyloo. We all know that Skyloo Lodge existed from 1961 to 1994. And it was, but Skyloo Lodge was named after the chapter. And so this has always been a district patch, along with another district adopted the name Skyloo about 10 years ago. The lodge, the Skyloo became, available when the district got merged into another district, and the lodge staff advisor, highest Chuck Case on Kalatawa, decided that name must change to one that he can pronounce. Thus, Skyloo Lodge was born. And here's another one that, as a result of that little thing, many lodge members protested the move of the staff advisor and refused to accept the name. Yamhill chapter had the tools in place to lodge their displeasure. The flap-shaped Yamhill district patch, as you can see, has a long phrase on the bottom that Mr. Robbins could not pronounce. And when I'm talking about Mr. Robbins, I'm talking about the former OA National Secretary, Phil Robbins. When he stepped down from being National OA Secretary, he got hired at Portland Area Council. And he became the staff advisor because they said, well, he was Mr. OA for the nation for many years. But so Yamhill chapter decided that they were now Sawash Chuck Kalatawa Uilihi, chapter. And they wore that on their pocket, and and Phil was not happy with that. And then a couple of years later, when Phil stepped down from it, Another staff advisor irritated the chapter, and the chapter and the district had changed the patch again, but they still had the long Indian name for land of opportunity. It's not a land of opportunity. It's a small river something. I'm not familiar with Chinook jargon that well. So they did it again. Well, the council got smart, and after you know it being done twice to them, they decided to take the Indian name off of the bottom of the patch and put Land of Opportunity. So they basically got the last laugh of the boys in that chapter. I know I went through this a little bit quick, but when I was talking to Todd and Frank and stuff and Terry, I said, this thing I could make if I wanted to exhibit every district patch that I had in my collection, I could make this a 9-hour presentation. But I said, let's just keep it short, sweet, give them a taste of district patches and go from there. So I decided I got help from Scott Moreland out of Boise area, Todd Hatfield, who's my wingman, my other wingman, Frank Kern, Terry Snyder, who is on a council historical staff with Todd and myself, Bill Buckmiller, who's a big collector out of the Tri-Cities, Washington area, and a few others. And I would have some major information holes if it wasn't for those gentlemen. Uh, I have I put my Facebook link into what you can uh, go on and see within my Northwest page on Facebook, the album that has a lot of the district patches in it. Not all, because I know I'm missing, at least 10. And with that, are there any questions?